Wanted to share some thoughts today on people's ability to ignore information that they find off-putting, distasteful, conspiracy-oriented, or otherwise. And I am walking today, walking my dog, so apologize if you can hear my footsteps, dogs running, breaks for people walking by so I don't look like a weirdo, things like that. But I can give a specific example of this. On many occasions, actually, I've been explaining or just discussing maybe my research on vaccinations, on geoengineering, on the corruption of our education system, of the education system, out of our education system, and a number of other things that are perfectly, reasonable points and things brought up regarding these topics that are, I'm not being an extremist in some way, one way or the other, but pointing out, references, links, things to check out, this aspect or the other. And through other conversations with the same people, or through hearing them conversate about different things, you'll hear, or I've heard them, and they've directly asked me even, like, hey man, hey, are you a flat earther? And never did I even mention or bring up or talk about that topic. Like, it's such a weird thing to ask somebody. But if you think about it, what they're doing is saying, oh, well, you question vaccines. You've gone outside of the mainstream narrative of what we're supposed to believe with vaccinations. And so you must just be batshit crazy. So you must be also a flat earther. So it's a shortcut to like all thinking. They've abandoned all critical thinking. They don't actually look into any of the points that were brought up. Immediately categorize the information and the person as crazy and conspiracy theory oriented. And then continue to lump them in further with things that they never even said, and just assume that that's what they believe too. So the examples of this that I've seen, it can't just be happenstance. I mean, this is what's happening. This is the mechanism that's occurring inside people's brains who want to not think, who want to go through life just believing what the mainstream narratives are so that they can feel safe and secure with that they know it all and that they've got all the answers to things, and that if they feel a little bit worried or whatever and they don't know what the truth is, that the mainstream media and the mainstream scientific community, quote unquote, will resolve all these horrible, anxious feelings for them by giving them the easy package of here's what to believe and never question. So, this is a major issue that needs to be addressed in people. They need to address it in themselves instead of just jumping to conclusions about things. Maybe they should actually consider information that people try to provide them. Such as, I don't know, I created like a 14-hour playlist of different videos with all kinds of doctors and scientists and research papers and different things and different questions brought up about vaccinations that need to be thought about and addressed. Doesn't mean I'm an anti-vaxxer. It means I'm being very pro-scientific by questioning the current paradigms and finding the contradictions and removing them, which is a logical process that the scientific method is based on, or it assumes logic, which also assumes that there should be no contradictions. And so when the very label of the vaccination itself says that it can injure you and it can cause serious injury up to and including fatality, is it weird to point that out? That there's a known issue, and they've even put it on the box, on the label, that there's a known issue. And so if you say, well, I'd rather not partake because I don't want to risk, having any of the known issues occur, and I'd rather, I'll go gamble in nature instead of this, what appears to be more and more a completely false and fake and pseudoscience of modern day vaccination, not immunization. And there are plenty of things that could be brought up. I provide one example of something so simple that, again, since the mainstream media and in your games, and that's the other thing with these people, is their head is inside of a video game 24/7 when they're not at work. And then even when they're at work, they're just watching stupid, idiotic things on YouTube that don't even, relate to anything. It's all just nonsense so they can escape their job. And I'm not talking about things I'm just guessing here. This is what I witness. This is my experience. So I've been around a lot of these different types of people who think that they're going to be in the middle of a World of Warcraft raid, and suddenly there's going to be a flashing alert telling them that the latest research on the vaccination says this or something, and then they're going to turn off their game and flip on Fox News, and then over there they're going to be doing the same thing and letting us all know about the latest and greatest research and science on the dangers of vaccinations, right? When we know that these video game manufacturers take funding from the military, from the various intelligence agencies who have an opinion on the development, on the storylines, on the even just the behavior and social aspects, and have used video games like World of Warcraft to conduct social engineering experimentation and studies. And the mainstream media outlets all being owned by the very vaccine and drug manufacturers who, I'm sitting there with this person trying to have a conversation with them. They think that they're going to get all their information from those other places, I think. And that if it's not there, then I'm a weirdo. When if you just go a little bit outside of those information channels, kabam, there's all the information. It's there. It's just that they haven't spent any time looking into these topics whatsoever. So I can spend 10 years and hit on these topics and be cycling back through and reading books and researching the different studies and looking at studies all around the world that are being conducted, or the lack of, or the fake type of studies, and on and off for a period long before I even had children, and definitely intense study during the time and up and until having children on these topics. And yet I guess you, Mr. Video game player and mainstream TV watcher and just person who doesn't want to do any thinking and jumps right to the fact that I'm a conspiracy theorist flat earther without even ever thinking about what I'm saying, I should trust what you're saying because of all the 0 minutes even of research that you've done on the topic. And you just take what's been indoctrinated into you from the public education system, from the same folks that are telling you that the vaccines are fine, and you're using a process of non-critical thinking, of indoctrination. Your brain has been molded to accept information without critically questioning it. Oh no, I haven't, that's not what happened at all, says the mind-controlled slave. And then, well, yeah, it's conspiracy. No, it's not. Go back and look at the Prussian education model, the implementations of that in America, and all across the rest of the world, the Western world. Even places like Japan, who heavily implemented the Prussian education model, right? And this model was not meant to make you think about things clearly. It was made to make you follow orders and be a good little slave. And then the industrialist, capitalist, Rockefeller, Carnegie types got their hands on the idea and twisted it into making you a nice little corporate slave. And there you are, happy as a bug in your corporate slave cubicle with your Pavlovian software, CRM that helps you manage all your day perfectly and easily with all the right colors and tones and bells and whistles. So the paradigm needs to shift. And just jumping to conclusions about what you think you already know about things, and then categorizing people who may or may not be telling you things that you know already or that you've never heard about before, maybe need to look into. Look into it. A lot of time people won't follow up with source material, and you question them on their material and they won't have it. So sometimes it doesn't take long at all to find the hole and say, well, that person's obviously, hasn't done their research or is just trying to lie to me or trying to sound good or whatever, right? But sometimes they're actually trying to help so that you don't sound like an idiot later on, or that you don't step into a giant pitfall. So this especially is problematic. I think that I'm touching on something here that's definitely a wider problem. It's not just these isolated incidents that I've had, but it's revealing, what appears to be a further chasm being created, either through my perceptions of things as I get older, or post, mid 2010-ish, around there, to now. I mean, it seems like we did have a peak of people wanting to question the current paradigms and to shift things, and now we've all gone back into complete and utter mind control.